Hi, my name's Eric, and I'll be reading you selections from the e-edition of today's Cape Cod Times. Today's date is Monday, September 29th of 2025. And we'll start with the weather, as we always do. Everything's a little sunnier after a Patriots win, and they certainly did that yesterday with a smackdown of the Carolina Panthers. Today, though, expect sun and areas of high clouds, very pleasant day. 75 degrees the expected high, 58 the low in the overnight, cloudy. Tomorrow, sun through high clouds. Again, a very nice day, high of 75, low of 56. Gets a little cooler on Wednesday, a high of 62 and a low of 49 in the overnight, partly sunny, breezy, and cooler. Thursday, breezy in the morning, otherwise some sun, a high of 60, a low of 49 as fall creeps in, and sunny to partly cloudy on Friday with a high of 65 and a low of 50. So we have a rain-free week ahead of us, and looks like plenty of sunshine. So very nice weather. Today, the sun will rise at 6:36 a.m. It will set at 6:26 p.m. We'll have 11 hours and 50 minutes of daylight. The moon will rise at 2:20 p.m. and set at 10:49 p.m. Heading to the front of the paper, where the lottery results used to be kept, they don't publish them in the Cape Cod Times anymore, but we do have listeners who have asked for us to read them, the lottery results for the numbers game. So for the numbers game of Sunday, September 28th of 2025, the results in the midday drawing were 8, 3, 9, 3. Again, yesterday's midday drawing of the numbers game, 8, 3, 9, 3. The evening drawing for Sunday, September 28th, 0, 7, 1, 8. Again, last night's drawing of the numbers game, 0, 7, 1, 8. Good luck to all who play, and remember us if you win. From the cover of today's Cape Cod Times, Vision for the Future. Yarmouth wants its residents to weigh in on a new 10-year plan, by Susan Vaughn. In South Yarmouth, a vision plan of the town of Yarmouth for the next 10 years is now on the home stretch after many years of public input that was guided by town officials. The focus in the draft 2025 Local Comprehensive Plan includes transitioning from economic reliance on seasonal tourism to year-round employment and businesses, and protecting the town's ponds, rivers, beaches, and drinking water. Adding more housing, creating walkable village centers, and improving stormwater management are among other goals. It answers where do we want to see managed growth and development and also keep the community's character, Yarmouth Town Planner Kathy Williams said in a recent interview. The Town Planning Department and the Town Planning Board headed up the creation of the draft plan with input from town staff and committees, the Chamber of Commerce, the regional school superintendent, and civic associations, Williams said. All Massachusetts towns are required to have master plans, Williams said. Yarmouth's plan was developed for consistency with the Cape Cod Commission Regional Policy Plan, while tailoring it to meet Yarmouth's specific needs with help from consultant BSC Group, she said. The town's last local comprehensive plan was approved in 2015. Residents can get a look at the final draft of the comprehensive plan at a public hearing Wednesday, October 1st at 5:30 p.m. in the Town Hall hearing room or online, and the meetings will be recorded. That'll be followed by a select board recommendation on October 21st and fall town meeting action on November 17th. What's gone into creating the draft 2025 plan? The plan's been in the works for several years. Select Board member Mark Forrest said in an interview on Thursday, September 25th, that the board made the creation of the plan a priority in 2017 and 2018, which was followed with a community visioning plan by the Town Planning Board in 2021 and $100,000 funding for the final plan. Our hope is that the local comprehensive plan will truly reflect the people, Forrest said. The plan is intended to identify the town's most important infrastructure needs and where the citizens want growth to occur and where they want conservation, he said. We're anxious to hear what the people have to say, Forrest said. He's hoping for a good turnout for the final October 1st hearing. The public consensus on the plan gives guidance to town officials, Forrest said. It makes our job easier. And what's in that draft plan? An executive summary of the 157-page plan describes it as a living document that reflects Yarmouth's values and hopes, that supports sustainable growth, protects natural beauty, and helps all residents, whether lifelong or new, thrive in a town they're proud to call home. 2 community sessions were held in 2024 and 2025 to identify and refine the existing conditions and goals and objectives for the comprehensive plan. The plan covers 3 main areas of the town: natural systems, built systems, and community systems, as well as housing and recreation from previous reports, capital infrastructure, and implementation plans for each of the areas with general timeframes. The town currently is undergoing or planning for several major projects, including the long-term wastewater management system construction, a new school, a new library, a new fire station, and converting a former school. Forrest said it's important that residents have an understanding of those projects. The town's transitioning from reliance on seasonal tourism to expanding to year-round jobs and businesses is emphasized in the community systems section of the plan, saying investments of sewer infrastructure, mixed-use zoning, and the reuse of the former Matachee Middle School site offer opportunities to unlock new economic growth. In addition to expanding the year-round economy, the community goals include preserving and promoting Yarmouth's history, effective, efficient, and transparent government, and year-round recreational facilities and programs for all ages. The top priority under natural systems is protecting the town's ponds, rivers, beaches, and drinking water, and the sewer project's role in achieving that goal. The other environmental goals in the plan include protecting surface water and groundwater, preserving wetlands and ecosystems, conserving open space, and improving access to natural lands. Built systems promotes expanding bike and pedestrian infrastructure, improving stormwater management, and working with the state to improve roads and bridges, as well as dealing with traffic congestion and unsafe intersections, especially along Route 28 and Station Avenue. Other goals call for reducing greenhouse gas emissions with solar panels on town buildings and switching to energy-efficient vehicles. Overreaching goals include creation of walkable village centers and mixed-use neighborhoods, sustainable solid waste management, waste reduction, and recycling. The town's housing plan outlines ways to support and expand housing and has identified the goal of creating at least 62 new affordable housing units per year, among other goals. The draft plan evaluates key capital facilities and infrastructure and funding sources that are needed to support certain. The draft plan evaluates key capital facilities and infrastructure and funding sources needed to support certain projects over the next 10 years. The Planning Board is the overseer of the master plan, which will need annual review to keep on top of it, Williams said. Our next article in the Cape Cod Times of September 29th, Brewster Sea Camp's future back in focus. A public forum is set for today. This is written by Heather McCarran. What should happen next at the former Sea Camps properties? That's the big question facing Brewster, and one that will be front and center at a community forum on Monday, September 29th at 6 p.m. at the Town Hall. That's tonight at 6 p.m. Residents are invited to attend the event starting at 6 p.m. in Town Hall to hear updated plans for repurposing the former Sea Camps Bay and Pond properties. The Sea Camps Advisory Committee and town administration will present findings from community outreach this spring, which town manager Peter Lombardi said included a survey that drew 1,500 responses. He said town leaders will present revised phasing and financing plans developed over the past several months, which the Select Board endorsed earlier this month. We believe this updated plan is very responsive to all of the feedback we heard from residents, Lombardi said. Sea Camps capital funding. Town leaders expect to bring a capital funding article to the Fall Town meeting on November 17th, asking voters to approve spending just more than $1 million in improvements to both properties. Lombardi emphasized that the town is not proposing to borrow any money to begin implementing the Sea Camps plans, At a special election in December of 2024, voters rejected an $11.4 million debt exclusion override to fund the first phases of the previous redevelopment proposal, sending town officials back to the drawing board. That came after the comprehensive vision for the sea camps, which was developed over 2 years, had been adopted at the May 2024 annual town meeting. That plan is still in play, but officials recognize that achieving it will require a different approach. Thus, the revised plans they'll highlight on September 29th. Initially, voters at the 2021 Fall Town Meeting overwhelmingly supported buying the 55-acre bay property at 3057 Main Street and the 66-acre pond property at 500 W.H. Bessie Cartway. The pond property was bought for $6 million, and the bay property cost $20 million. Both purchases were ratified at a special election in October the same year. For many in town, the sea camps are seen as a major community asset with potential for walking trails, beach access, recreation, open space preservation, and affordable housing. Top concerns voiced in the spring survey included the project timeline, cost reduction, and minimizing the tax burden. Responses reflected a strong desire to preserve open space and protect local wildlife while also creating more opportunities for community uses. Many residents supported expanding public access to the beach and improving walking trails, as well as investing in recreational programs. Cost was a recurring concern, according to an outline of the results on the town's website. Residents want clear financial planning and that the town to explore more grants and other funding sources. Some also suggested revenue-generating uses for part of the properties to keep it maintained over the long term. The idea of a community center got mixed reactions, with some supporting it, others questioning the need, or whether it belongs elsewhere in the town. Affordable housing and wastewater treatment were also among residents' priorities, but didn't rank as high as the other priorities. The survey also showed strong support for phasing the reuse plan, starting with the bay property. The Sea Camps Community Forum will happen tonight, Monday, September 29th at 6 p.m. in the Brewster Town Hall at 2198 Main Street. Via Zoom, you can find the link at brewster-ma.gov home, and the dial-in is 646-931-3860 or 929-436-2866. The webinar ID is 851-9934-7418. The passcode is 411513. And now's a good time to let you know that if you miss any of the information that we share, like that very detailed information on how to access it through Zoom, you can always go to audiblelocalledger.org, and on the Listen tab, click on it, and you'll find 150 different readings in chronological order, and you can catch up on anything that we have read in the past 10 days or so that you might have missed. And don't forget, there is a wide variety of periodicals, literature, and radio plays, including our latest, The War of the Worlds, a tremendous hour version of that radio play that we performed last Wednesday, it was. And all of that is kept up there for people who are blind or print disabled. It's free. You should enjoy it. We also keep our shopping guides up there so you know what's on sale at the supermarket. And that's all available on our disability-compliant website, audiblelocalledger.org. Our next headline in the Cape Cod Times, dated today, Monday, September 29th, Commercial Vehicle Parking and Home Occupation in Barnstable Zoning Ideas by Zane Razak. A proposed zoning amendment to limit the number of commercial vehicles, trailers, and unregistered vehicles allowed on residential property ignores the reality of everyday residents, said Matthew Moynihan of Centerville. When he was younger, his family kept a work truck, an F-550 that weighed over a ton, on their property. Over the years, he's also fixed unregistered cars in his driveway. Not everyone can afford to pay for off-site storage. Not everyone believes that making Barnstable look pretty should come at the expense of working families who keep this town running, said Moynihan. The proposed zoning amendment punishes the very people we should be supporting: the tradesmen, the fishermen, the mechanics, small business owners, and the families who are trying to get by. Moynihan was among the residents who attended a Barnstable Planning Board meeting on Monday, September 22nd, to sound off on the proposed zoning amendment. It was one of 6 proposed zoning amendments on the docket for the meeting. The stated intention of the proposal is to reduce safety hazards, prevent the disruption of traffic, and maintain the character and appearance of residential neighborhoods, according to Planning Board materials. The recommendation is among the proposals from the Ad Hoc Zoning Committee, which has been reviewing recently adopted zoning changes and preparing recommendations. The Planning Board will continue to examine the proposals to make recommendations to the Town Council. What is the commercial vehicles proposal? According to the proposed amendment, trailers of 20 feet or more in length, or having more than 4 tires, and construction vehicles such as backhoes, bulldozers, and dump trucks will be prohibited from being parked or stored on a residential lot. Commercial vehicles and trailers may also not be parked on the grass, lawn, or landscaping. A mobile home could be parked on the grass on the back half of the lot, according to the proposal. Permitted uses of a right in all zoning districts would include mobile homes, 1 trailer that doesn't exceed 20 feet in length and doesn't have more than 4 tires, a maximum of 2 commercial vehicles, and 1 unregistered motor vehicle, according to the current language of the proposed amendment. More than 2 commercial vehicles would require a special permit granted by the Town Zoning Board of Appeals. The Zoning Board of Appeals would not authorize more than 3 commercial vehicles on 1 residential property. The proposal is not intended for boat storage or trailers. Barnstable Director of Planning and Development James Kupfer said that the proposed amendment's intent is not to regulate boat storage and boat trailers. I can understand why individuals would see something that says trailers of a certain size and be concerned about that. However, within the commercial vehicle parking, it doesn't touch on or regulate boat storage or boat parking with trailers, said Kupfer. That's a different section of our ordinance, and the building commissioner is the one that enforces that. The Planning Board decided to postpone discussion of the proposal, holding off until November 10th. Town officials are expected to provide updated language that specifically identifies the exclusion of boat storage and boat trailers. Another new zoning proposal: home occupations. Another proposed amendment scheduled to be discussed on November 10th aims to improve enforcement policy and procedures by establishing a required home occupation license for all home occupations and refine certain conditions to limit home occupations that may create a nuisance in a residential neighborhood, according to Planning Board materials. Planning Board members also heard about 4 other proposed zoning amendments recommended by the Ad Hoc Zoning Committee and will discuss them in more detail on October 27th. Those proposals include increasing the minimum required parking for residential or artist live work from 1 space per unit in all districts to a parking ratio of a minimum of 1.5 spaces per dwelling unit up to no more than 2 spaces per dwelling unit. We heard significant concerns about parking from residents and business owners, and their message was loud and clear. 1 space per unit was inadequate, said Bob Schult, who formerly chaired the Ad Hoc Zoning Committee. The reality is we still live in a very car-centric region with no mass transit and very limited bus service. Other suggestions from the Ad Hoc Committee include replacing the Downtown Village District with the Downtown Neighborhood District, reducing building heights and density, and expanding the requirement for ground floor commercial space on Ocean Street to Pleasant Street. The Ad Hoc Zoning Committee has also proposed modifying the building height requirements in the Downtown Main Street District and Downtown Village District from 3.5 stories to 4 stories maximum to 3 maximum stories, with the potential for an increase to 3.5 stories if set back. Moving inside the Cape Cod Times, dated today, Monday, September 29th, popular Dennis restaurant Grumpy's is now for sale by Denise Coffey. Celebrated for its baked goods and corned beef hash, Grumpy's Restaurant, a popular breakfast and lunch spot at 1408 Route 6A in East Dennis, is for sale. After 35 years, James Manning Jr. is ready to sell the 98-seat restaurant listed by Carey Commercial. "We're selling the restaurant, not the real estate," Manning said, though he added it was negotiable. Bass River Associates owns the property, and Quivit, Inc. owns the restaurant, Manning said. What prompted his decision? The first vacation he took with his wife Stephanie in years, he said. "It was wonderful," he said in a September 25th interview. "My kids are grown, and we had a wonderful time. And when I came back, I thought I might be interested in selling." Built in 1965, the one-story, 3,324-square-foot building has been in the family for 3 generations. It was a garage and laundromat before becoming a restaurant. The building is assessed at $639,000, according to the Dennis website. Manning's grandfather and father owned it before he bought it in the mid-1980s. At that time, the restaurant was called the Cranberry Muffin. In the late 80s, his tenant walked away, and Manning, who worked in the electric utility industry, had to pivot. "I had to open up the restaurant to pay the mortgage," Manning said. His mother, Lorraine, and sister, Christine Mars, joined him in the venture. His mother came up with the name Grumpy's, and Mars, a Johnson & Wales graduate, designed most of the items on the menu. The corned beef hash is homemade. "We actually boil the corned beef every morning," Manning said. Manning refers to the 25 full-time employees as co-workers. They work year-round, and some of the cooks have been there for 30 years. "It's been wonderful, the relationships with customers," Manning said. "It's been phenomenal to see the growth, seeing a co-worker buy a home on Cape Cod where it's challenging. The customers are great. Some younger kids come back and I see their success stories. It's heartwarming." The next headline, police say Mashpee school trespass incidents are not related to the Falmouth case, by Desiree Nick Farjum of the Cape Cod Times. A 43-year-old Mashpee woman violating a no trespass order for the Mashpee Middle High School property was taken into custody on Thursday, September 25th, according to Mashpee's police department. There had been no threat directed toward any of the Mashpee schools, but additional officers were assigned to all 3 public schools as a precaution, according to a September 25th statement from the department. The woman made no threats towards any student or faculty members, according to the statement. On Friday, September 19th, the woman was seen walking the perimeter of the school grounds. A Mashpee Police School Resource Officer believed she fit the description of another report of an individual who was harassing students near the soccer field. The woman was served a no trespass order for the September 19th incident. Around 2:30 p.m. on September 25th, the woman was seen again on school grounds by the school resource officer, according to the statement. Since the no trespass order from September 19th was still in place against her on school grounds, she was taken into custody by Mashpee Police. On Friday, September 26th, the Mashpee Police did not immediately respond to a request for information of whether the woman was released from custody or her status generally. The woman is not involved with any ongoing investigations in the neighboring town of Falmouth, the statement read, referring to a Falmouth teen accused in early September of threatening to use a deadly weapon in a public building. Prosecutors decided to drop the felony charge in that case, according to Cape and Islands District Attorney Robert Gallibois. With tensions high among Falmouth Public Schools parents and some staff, though, Mashpee Public Schools leadership and police have established a strategic safety plan, including the additional officers at the schools, according to the statement. The school grounds are marked, advising no public access during school hours, according to the statement. A Provincetown flu COVID-19 vaccine clinic is scheduled for October 22nd. This is reported by Beth McDermott, and this report was assisted by AI. The Provincetown Health Department will host a vaccination clinic on October 22nd, and that event will take place from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. in the auditorium of Provincetown Town Hall at 260 Commercial Street, according to a community announcement. The clinic is open to all ages and will offer both flu and COVID-19 vaccines. The CDC recommends these vaccinations for the fall and winter season. Registration is required due to the limited number of doses, and participants can register at home.color.com/vaccine/register. They should have their insurance information ready when they register. Additional vaccination options are available on the Mass Department of Public Health website at mass.gov/info-details/COVID-19 vaccine information. Staying up to date on COVID-19 vaccines, including boosters, is the best way to prevent serious illness, hospitalization, and death. Boosters provide additional protection even for those who have already had COVID-19. An editorial note whenever AI is involved: this story was created by reporter Beth McDermott. With the assistance of artificial intelligence, journalists were involved in every step of the information gathering, the review, editing, and the publishing process. From the Cape and Islands section, Riding the Learning Curve with New Camera Gear by Steve Heslip. And readers are possibly asking, why are you reading about photography to the blind? Well, Steve Heslip is the Cape Cod Times main photographer. I believe he's their manager, or whatever you would say. He is the chief photographer of the staff. And he doesn't always just talk about photography and taking a picture. It's usually something a little bit more personal than that. So, riding the learning curve. My father was fond of repeating the old saying, "You can't teach an old dog new tricks." This was usually uttered when trying to get the TV remote to work. My first memory of this as a child was an old Zenith set. It came with a chunky device we called the channel changer. It had two buttons, one for on and off. The other was to change channels. Sound control involved getting up and going to the set. But in the day, even that could seem like too much technology. Trips to my maternal grandmother's house were trips back in time. Her washing machine was an open rotating tub. Mounted atop that, a ringing device. You hand-fed the wash through to squeeze out the water. Her toaster was ancient. It required the operator to manually flip the bread and then turn it back towards the heating coils to finish toasting. Inattentive use risked burned toast and possibly a kitchen fire. Both devices infinitely interesting to young kids who were forbidden to use them. My grandmother's mantra was a different approach to new things. A new broom sweeps clean, but an old one knows where the dirt is. So when new things arrive in boxes on the doorstep, I'm excited and conflicted. Recently, the Cape Cod Times photographers received new cameras, the mirrorless variety, compact and fast, like sports cars compared to our time-worn family sedans. Showing their age with scratches, new technology arrives now with no instruction manual. A pleasant relief for most men, me included. Instead, a quick start guide sheet. This tells the operator how to put in the battery, the beating heart of all cameras today. To figure out all the buttons, knobs, and menus, a QR code is scanned. Time to go rogue. I found the on-off button, happily labeled in large type for old eyes. A few more tweaks and it was time to field test. Our new kit included an interesting super long zoom lens, 200 to 600 millimeters, designed to be nimble and quick. Even more tempting, the camera's autofocus software has eye detection for humans, animals, and birds. Furthermore, one can choose which eye to focus on, left or right. A willing great egret proved the perfect test. Tall bird, tiny head. Just about every shot was tack sharp on the eyes. This gear could definitely change my in-focus batting average. But like the old broom, it'll still need me to find the photos. And for good luck, I rigged my new gear with my old camera strap. The other story in the Cape and Islands section of today's Cape Cod Times: a proposed market on Route 28, Mashpee, gets Commission approval by Denise Coffey. The Cape Cod Commission has given its blessing for a proposed specialty market on Route 28 in Mashpee, but the developer must meet a variety of conditions on handling stormwater, sewage, erosion, and traffic before getting the final okay. The Commission unanimously approved the proposal at its September 25th meeting. The development had been under review by a Commission subcommittee because it's considered a development of regional impact. The new store will be 13,299 square feet on 3.9 acres at 647 Falmouth Road. After 3 public hearings, the subcommittee at its September 18th meeting recommended that the full commission approve the project. Several conditions need to be met, according to the commission's regulatory planner, Alex Peterson. The applicant, Shellback Development LLC, must get all local, state, and federal permits and any required approvals from the Mass DOT regarding curb cuts and handling traffic. Shellback must also submit site design, wastewater, stormwater, erosion, and invasive species mitigation plans, and long-term maintenance for stormwater management as the project continues. The applicant must pay $200,037 to the town of Mashpee for nitrogen offset and $144,900 for open space offset. The Commission will ensure that all the conditions have been met before giving the final certificate of compliance. Subcommittee member Peter Okun questioned the conclusions of the traffic study that were done for the project. Bowman traffic consultant Emily Sullivan said the impact studies conducted for the 14 intersections and proposed site driveways in the study area showed no significant impacts to traffic delays and queuing. Traffic congestion was a huge concern, raised repeatedly by the public in hearings and through letters that were submitted to the Commission. I have a hard time believing a grocery store of this caliber is not going to impact traffic on Shellback Way, Okun said. However, my decision to approve is based on the fact that these issues need to be brought up at the planning board level. The planning board needs to take a hard look at traffic, especially how it's going to impact their residents on Shellback Way. Mashpee Town Planner Brian Tobin said the Commission was correct in highlighting 2 key concerns: traffic and how much nitrogen the project will add to the environment. I have no question they'll be raised by the board's committees and the public, he said. The project will need a site plan review and a special permit from the town of Mashpee before any work can begin. And in some weather-related news, which isn't exactly regional or local, which we like to focus on first, but important if you have friends, as I do, who might be boaters heading south for the season, Imelda threat in forecast for the East Coast. The southeastern U.S. could see flooding and high winds. This is reported by Dinah Voiles-Pulver, Doyle Rice, and Janine Santucci of USA Today. Hurricane forecasters are watching 3 major risk factors for people across a swath of the East Coast, a complex dance of weather that's led to a troubling forecast for late September. First, Hurricane Umberto is roaring out in the Atlantic Ocean as a major hurricane. Second, another storm that strengthened into a tropical depression September 27th will soon be named Imelda, and it's expected to travel parallel to a stretch of coastline from Florida to the Carolinas. And third, unrelated rain is expected in the southeastern United States. The 3 weather systems may interact with each other, possibly in a dramatic and chaotic fashion, leading to added uncertainty. The forecast calls for heavy rain, dangerous surf, and high-end tropical storm force winds to begin arriving along the southeastern U.S. coast by September 29th as potential tropical storm Imelda approaches from the Bahamas and Hurricane Umberto roughs up the ocean from several hundred miles to the east. Umberto intensified to a Category 5, but it's not presently considered a major threat to the United States. Umberto's the second Category 5 hurricane of the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season, with Hurricane Erin in August being the first. A tropical storm watch was issued from the east coast of Florida from the Palm Beach-Martin County line to the Flagler-Volusia County line on September 27th, after the tropical depression formed, indicating tropical storm conditions were expected within 48 hours. Rip currents are expected to intensify at beaches along Florida's east coast, the National Hurricane Center said. The National Hurricane Center's official forecast track calls for the new system, now dubbed Tropical Depression 9, to become a tropical storm and then briefly a hurricane by early this week off the Florida coast. The forecast calls for it to slow and weaken as it approaches the South Carolina coast on September 29th to 30th, and the storm could spend nearly 24 hours in virtually the same location, just offshore. Slow-moving storms mean heavy rain becomes a significant threat, said National Hurricane Center Director Michael Brennan. We don't know exactly where that heaviest rainfall will occur, but that would be in addition to some of the heavy rainfall we're seeing across portions of the southeastern United States this weekend. There's an increasing threat of heavy rainfall from coastal Georgia through the Carolinas and into the mid-Atlantic states, which could cause flash, urban, and river flooding, Brennan said. So everybody along the coast of South Carolina, North Carolina, from Georgia all the way up into the southern mid-Atlantic states is going to want to pay attention to the forecast for this system. However, greater uncertainty than normal remains in the forecast. As the storm approaches, a combination of factors is not providing meteorologists the comfort they'd like in making their forecasts. That includes the influence of an approaching cold front and upper-level disturbance over the region, questions over the speed and timing of the system and Umberto, and the potential for an unusual interaction between the two tropical systems as they approach each other that could affect one or both of their trajectories. Meanwhile, the unrelated rain event bringing heavy rain into the Appalachians and southeast is setting up a potential for greater flooding, even before the tropical weather moves in. For days now, computer models used in forecasting have been hinting at the potential for a Fujiwara effect between Umberto and the potential tropical storm, said Brian McNulty, a senior research associate at the Rosenstiel School of Marine, Atmospheric, and Earth Science at the University of Miami. The Fujiwara effect is a phenomenon that occurs when two cyclones near each other begin to spin around a common center point between them, rather than moving independently. That interaction could cause one storm to absorb another, the two storms to merge, or both storms to move off in different directions. That potential makes the track and intensity forecast for each more challenging, said Dan Brown, Hurricane Specialist Branch Chief at the Hurricane Center. As a result, the Hurricane Center and its partners have been scheduling frequent flights over the western Atlantic in the Hurricane Hunter aircraft to collect information about the storms and their surrounding environment, Brown said. The Weather Service has also been launching additional weather balloons to gather atmospheric information. On September 26th, one model showed a 1 in 3 chance of the Fujiwara effect, McNulty told USA Today. It's certainly within the realm of possibilities that Umberto and future Imelda rotate around a common centroid in the Sunday to Tuesday time frame, he said. On the other side of the situation, each of the two storms could move on as if the other didn't exist, he said. Well, how much rain could fall in the southeast? Between 5 and 10 inches of rain could fall in the coastal southeastern parts of North and South Carolina through the first couple of days of October, the Weather Prediction Center said. Higher totals could fall locally and could lead to scattered pockets of flash flooding, the Weather Prediction Center said. From far eastern Georgia to central Virginia, 2 to 4 inches could fall, while the Carolina coasts could see upwards of 8 to 16 inches, according to AccuWeather meteorologists. We're well past the midway point in our reading, which is what regular listeners, I'm sure, are aware of, is a point where we go to a different kind of local news, which are the obituaries and death notices listed in that day's Cape Cod Times. And there's one in today's Cape Cod Times. It's of Albert Joseph Russo of Bethel. With sadness, we announce the passing of Albert, who was known as Bert J. Russo, who died August 8th at the age of 81. He was born in Westfield, Mass. And moved to Roanoke in 1951 from Roanoke to West Springfield. Burt graduated from West Springfield High School in 1961, where he was president of his class, captain of the baseball and football teams. Burt never forgot his West Side roots, attending many reunions over the years. He graduated from UMass Amherst with a degree in economics, and as an alumni, remained very active in his Theta Chi fraternity. Burt went on to live in Westford, Mass., have a successful career as a VP at Computer Sciences Corporation, and with his wife Nancy, raised two daughters, Lisa and Amy. In Burt's retirement, he resided on Cape Cod and continued to enjoy spending time with his grandchildren, boating, golfing, gardening, and fishing. Burt is survived by his immediate family as well as many friends. Even as he faced the challenges of advancing Alzheimer's, his true spirit was always present. It is his outlook on life that we will hold dear. Dad, you're loved and you'll be missed. In memory of Burt, any donations to the Boys and Girls Club or the Alzheimer's Association would be appreciated. And keeping it local, we'll move into the sports section. Barnstable football remains unbeaten after a shutout. Adam Kirkjian wrote this: domination. That's the best word to describe Barnstable's 41-0 victory over Amherst on Saturday. It's been a great start for the Red Hawks, who are 3-0, but the schedule stiffens with Milford coming in next week. Barnstable built a 34-0 lead at halftime and then cruised. Isaiah Chisholm scored first on a 6-yard run, with Hagen Diaz kicking the first of his 5 successful point-after attempts. Diaz then scored on an 18-yard run. Kyle Coffin hit Brady Kundal for a 34-yard pass. Coffin then raced in for a 28-yard score. Dan Franklin had a 12-yard scoring run, and Jason Dyer had the last touchdown with a 36-yarder. Coffin completed all 3 passes he attempted with a touchdown and had 36 yards and a touchdown on 2 carries. Kundal had 2 receptions for 42 yards and a touchdown. Dyer had 7 carries for 78 yards and a touchdown. Franklin had 52 yards and a touchdown on 7 carries. The defense held the Hurricanes to minus 24 yards of offense. That is domination. In other high school sports action in boys soccer, it was Nantucket 3, St. Mary's 2. The Whalers, who were 6-3, won their 5th straight game. They fell down 2-0 but rallied back with a goal when Calvin Guevara scored on a header crossed by Stoyan Popov. Guevara scored again on a direct free kick curled into the upper right corner of the goal. Rakin Brannigan redirected a throw-in to provide the winning margin. Defensively, Denzel Tejada, Nick Sosa, and Diego Roman worked tirelessly to keep St. Mary's offensive chances to a minimum. Aldo Lemus and Brannigan stood out in the midfield for the Whalers. In girls soccer, it was Nantucket 2, St. Mary's 1. The Whalers, who were 4-4-2, won for the 3rd time in the last 4 games. Harper Lebrecht scored off a Chelsea Gross assist. Emma Woodbury scored the 2nd Whalers goal off a Ruby Stedman assist. Goalie Madden Myers played well. She had a strong save on a late corner kick. After another corner, Lebrecht saved the ball from scoring and cleared it. The short-handed Whalers were out 5 seniors, 4 of whom were starters. Grace Schroeder played well at defensive midfield, and Fiona Keltz stood out at center back. It was Archbishop Williams 3, Martha's Vineyard 2. The Vineyarders, who were 6-3-2, lost on a goal with under 2 minutes left. Archbishop Williams played a long ball over the top of Martha's Vineyard's back line, and a routine back pass to the Vineyard goalie ended up skipping a bit harder than expected, going under her foot, becoming an own goal, and ultimately giving Archbishop the win. Leah Thompson took a pass on an inside diagonal run from winger Sydney Brugiere, fired a quick shot, caused the goalie to make an outstretched save, but gave up the rebound to Charlotte Sebastian, who fired a shot that went through the keeper's legs. Eleanor Monet stepped up to take the free kick and from approximately 30 yards out drilled the ball on a tightrope, going upper 90 in the far left corner and tying the game 2-2. In field hockey, it was Sandwich 2 and Hingham 2. The Blue Knights, who are 8-0-1, suffered their first blemish of the season to the also undefeated Harbormen, who are 8-0-1 now. Quinn Jordan scored both Sandwich goals, with Chloe Schultz assisting on the second, which tied the score with less than 2 minutes to go. The Blue Knights had 17 penalty corner opportunities. The 2 goals allowed by Sandwich were the first 2 allowed this season for them. It was Nantucket 1, West Bridgewater 0. The Whalers, who were 6-1, earned their 3rd shutout win of the season. It was Monomoy 1, Dover Sherborne 0. The Sharks, who were 6-3, scored when Grayson Burrell tallied one on Emery Capallo's assist. Maddie Sweat made 11 saves for the shutout. And finally, it was Martha's Vineyard 3, Sharon 1. The Vineyarders, who were 3-3, won their 3rd straight game. Sandwich Field Hockey's Schultz Does a Little Bit of Everything by Adam Kirkchin. In Sandwich, in any team sport, sure, it's all well and good to have different functioning parts. The key is to have someone to combine all the parts and get the unit working together as a whole. It could be referred to as the glue or the connective tissue that binds everyone together. It's that special ingredient that makes the team greater than the sum of its parts. For Sandwich High field hockey, that player is senior midfielder Chloe Schultz. Her reputation's well established, but Schultz provided more evidence for why she's so important to her team during Saturday's 2-2 tie with Hingham. In short, Schultz does everything well. She plays great defense, carries the ball through the midfield to set up offense with efficiency, and she's an excellent passer, and she can shoot. Even more than all that, she has that 6th athletic sense of when to take over the game. Facing a 2-1 deficit in the 3rd quarter, Schultz had a dominant 3rd quarter. She handled the ball effortlessly through traffic. And finally, she assisted on Quinn Jordan's goal with 1:28 to play that tied the score. In the tightest moments, Schultz plays her best. She's currently undecided on her college plans. I like being in the middle, Schultz said. Sometimes I feel like I'm more defensive, but I also love to shoot. So I feel like it's kind of the perfect in-between, being the center. Sandwich coach Kelsey Beaton couldn't say enough of how effective a player Schultz is. She's outstanding, Beaton said of Schultz. She is so good. She's been that way. She's one of the most outstanding players I've ever coached in 25 years. She's in control. She's got the offensive side, the defensive side. She's got the ice hockey hands. I continue to be impressed with her. More than any one aspect of the game, what Beaton was most impressed by Saturday was the will her team showed in the face of real adversity. Talking to her Blue Knights after the game, she said, "You fought the entire game." They really did. Jordan's goals each came when the team was battling from a deficit. It was state tournament intensity in September, and the Blue Knights passed the test from that perspective. "We battled," Beaton said. "Friday's 3-0 win over Falmouth was like 85 degrees. We played back-to-back in super hot days, and they fought this entire game. That's the team we want to bring forward, right? We can fix corner shooting, we can fix defensive little tweaks, but I can't make a kid a fighter if they're not a fighter." You could see every kid on that field was fighting, and they fought and fought and fought. The players and coach acknowledged the Blue Knights have to finish their chances better. Unofficially, Sandwich had 17 corners. Those missed opportunities harken back to the state title loss to Watertown last season. It's an issue, and the players know that. After the top spot, a new headline, "Chaos Reigns in Cape and Islands Girls Volleyball" by Adam Kirkchin. We know a few things at this point in the girls' high school volleyball season. We know that Bourne is a deserving number 1. The Canalmen, fresh off last year's Division 5 state title, have only lost 1 match, and they've looked fairly dominant in the rest. We know this remains a top volleyball region. We know there are some very good players and coaches here. What we don't know is if there is an obvious pecking order after Bourne. Trying to figure out number 2 to 5 was the most difficult task since doing the rankings last year. It's just hard to say. All these teams are beating each other, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. This is my attempt to make sense of it. Maybe this all will shake out moving forward. So on to the rankings. Bourne is 7-1, and there's no debating on this one. The Canalmen have been as advertised. The one loss was a 5-setter that could have easily gone in their favor. There are no signs of complacency after winning a state title last year. The team will have to build depth over the course of the season, but overall, you have to like where this team sits. Seniors Lily Russell, Michaela Muldoon, Avery Morrill, Nola Timo, Madeline Rossignol, and Sophia Halunen are all top leaders and players. Next, Cape Tech is 6-3. Kind of a surprise, the Crusaders have quietly built a solid resume. The Crusaders have split 2 matches with St. John Paul II, and there's also a win over Nauset mixed in there. The Crusaders came in at number 18 in the MIAA power rankings. Players like Megan Bird, Gabby DaCosta, Sophia Todorov, and basketball sensation Senny Walton have all played well. St. John Paul II is listed as 3rd. They're 5-6. Okay, I get it. A team with a losing record at the number 3 spot? Yes, I understand. If you're still confused, read the lead-in again. After Bourne, there's madness. We go back to resume, and if you look at the wins, they're more impressive than the losses are disappointing. The Lions have that win over Cape Tech, plus another quality win over Sandwich. Some players to keep an eye out for include Isabel Linnell, Zlata Alioshka, Caitlin McGrail, Eva Mathis, and Lola Ur. Sandwich comes next at 4th. They're 4-3. I could tell by watching this team against St. John Paul that there is some potential here. You just get the sense that the Blue Knights haven't played their best volleyball yet, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. Overall, there's a lot to like here. The win over Nauset is promising, and the loss to St. John Paul II is a good learning tool. Maddie Brown, Jamer Diaz-Vallejo, and Nora Katzenbach have all contributed to this team's early success. Nauset's number 5 at 6-4. This is another team that you look at and say, if this squad just puts it all together, it's going to be dangerous. You can say that about basically all these teams, but it's been interesting to see the Warriors get better and improve on last season. There are losses to Cape Tech and Sandwich, and the best win is over JP2. Molly Archer, Sophia Quinton, Stella Smith, Violet Yingling, and Annika Valli are all top performers here. Honorable mention at 6 is Barnstable, 5-5. The Red Hawks have struggled out of the gate, but have a good junior class. Bella Magalhaes is an emerging talent. And Sturgis East is also an honorable mention at 3-3. This team's been an enigma, but easily one of the top wins was a victory over Cape Tech. This is a team to watch for sure. And we've completed the local news. There's a couple of national stories we'll get to before we run out of time here. New tariffs target goods such as kitchen cabinets. Supreme Court could put duties at risk by Kinsey Crowley of USA Today. President Donald Trump announced a new round of tariffs on September 25th, focusing on specific goods like kitchen cabinets and furniture. We will be imposing a 50% tariff on all kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and associated products starting October 1st of 2025. Additionally, we'll be charging a 30% tariff on upholstered furniture, Trump said in a Truth Social post. In the same series of posts, he announced a 25% tariff on all heavy, big trucks imports and a 100% tariff on brand-name drugs. Trump's sweeping tariffs against countries around the world could be at legal risk due to a case headed to the Supreme Court. Reuters reported these new actions could be part of the Trump administration's shift to better established legal authority. The president said in his Truth Social post the reason for the cabinet, vanity, and furniture tariffs is, quote, the large-scale flooding, in capital letters, of these products into the U.S. by other outside countries. It's a very unfair practice, but we must protect for national security and other reasons our manufacturing process. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Trump teased the focus on furniture in August in a Truth Social post, saying he would run a major tariff investigation. This will bring the furniture business back to North Carolina, South Carolina, Michigan, and states all across the nation, he wrote on August 22nd. Jobs for furniture and wood product manufacturing have been cut in half since 2000, Reuters reported, and the U.S. imported about $25.5 billion in furniture in 2024, more than half of those imports coming from Vietnam and China. Some furniture executives worry about rising prices and the lack of domestic manufacturing capacity. Ramping up manufacturing in the U.S. would require years of investments in building the facilities and the workforce that most in this industry can't afford to make. RHRH.N, formerly known as Restoration Hardware CEO Gary Friedman, said that, according to Reuters. A tariff is a form of tax imposed on imports from another country. Tariffs can create more demand for domestic manufacturers, but those companies are also part of the global supply chain and therefore also affected by tariffs, experts have previously explained to USA Today. Trump has frequently used tariffs as part of foreign policy negotiations in his second term, but many of them were reduced or delayed. In November, the Supreme Court will hear arguments for an appeal of a lower court's decision that Trump overreached when he invoked the 1977 law to impose tariffs on imports from most countries. If the justices rule against Trump, the administration may need to issue refunds on revenue that was collected from approximately half of the tariffs. Contributing to that report was Rachel Barber of USA Today and Reuters. In our final story in the Cape Cod Times of Monday, September 29th, Social Security payments going digital as of September 30th by Amaris Encinas and Bailey Schultz of USA Today. Social Security checks are going paperless starting September 30th. Because of an executive order issued in March, federal benefit payments will primarily be issued electronically, with paper checks being phased out in most cases. The White House says the federal government's use of paper-based payments like checks and money orders imposes unnecessary costs, delays, and risks of fraud, lost payments, theft, and inefficiencies. In the weeks leading up to the change, the Social Security Administration, or SSA, has reached out to recipients who receive paper checks, encouraging them to switch to electronic payment options before the deadline. Electronic payments offer significant advantages over paper checks, including faster access to funds, increased security, and greater convenience, Nick Perrine, Chief Communications Officer, said in a statement. Payments are deposited directly into a bank account or onto a prepaid debit card, eliminating the need to wait for mail delivery or visit a bank. In addition to the change, the agency will no longer offer a temporary check option when processing initial claims. Beneficiaries interested in requesting an exemption from the electronic payment requirement must file a waiver with the U.S. Treasury by dialing 877-874-6347. Again, that number, 877-874-6347. SSA technicians are available to assist beneficiaries with this transition and to answer any questions. According to the SSA, to ensure new beneficiaries receive their benefits securely and without interruption, those preparing initial claims should set up bank accounts for direct deposit. And with that, we've come to the end of our reading of the Cape Cod Times for today, September 29th of 2025. This is your reader, Eric, saying, don't miss War of the Worlds at 8 o'clock every night this week. It's terrific. I think you'll really enjoy it. And be well, be safe, look out for each other, and remember our veterans, especially those we've lost recently. Bye for now.